You don't become who you're meant to be in the spotlight. You become that person in the dark while the world sleeps. As a kid, I remember never wanting to go to bed. I wasn't tired, not in the way they said I should be. While the lights dimmed and the world quieted down, something in me lit up, a curiosity. The same curiosity I sense most of us dealt with. That feeling that life didn't just stop because it got dark, that something was still happening. And I didn't want to miss it. I'd stare at the ceiling, ears tuned to the hum of the world outside, every creak of the floorboard, every whisper of wind through the trees. Just reminded me things were happening, were moving, that life was going on all around me. What if a new idea floated by in the night? What if an adventure passed me while I slept? What if the thing I was meant to see or become only showed up once the world stopped watching? And so, for as long as I could, I stayed up. Not out of rebellion, but because I felt like I was reaching for something no one else could see. I think even as kids, we understand. Some people dream with their eyes closed. Others dream with them open. And so while the world slept, I stayed awake. But then some time passes. We grow up. And somewhere along the way, the magic they told you to chase becomes the very thing they urge you to forget. You trade wonder for a resume. You forfeit imagination for a schedule. You're taught that fitting in is wisdom. Dreaming beyond the blueprint, it's foolish. There's no utility for it. And just like that, the same world that once read you bedtime stories now hands you a manual titled, "This is how it's done." I think a lot of us come to accept it. Close our eyes without question, fall asleep in the middle of our own lives, living by default, drifting through job we hate after job we hate, numbing with ache and distraction, mistaking comfort for meaning. For a while, I even went down that road. But eventually, I couldn't. I couldn't unsee what I knew as a child. I couldn't pretend the fire inside me wasn't real. And so I walked away, not because I was lost, but because I knew exactly what I was after. The next chapter was locking myself in rooms surrounded by notebooks, silence, laptops, and stubborn hope. I wrote, I reworked, I tore it down and built again and again. I dreamt with calloused hands and tired eyes. Not for applause. Believe it or not, there was none. Not for validation. There's very little of that as well. But because I refused to die with someone else's version of life in my chest. They told me to settle, to follow the rules, to make peace with good enough. But I was busy making war with mediocrity. So while the world slept, I stayed awake. What they don't tell you is that growth doesn't come once, it comes in cycles. Sometimes loud, abrupt, fast-paced, sometimes quiet, empty, barren. And every time you think you've arrived, life has this beautiful way of humbling you, of tearing you down just enough to rebuild something better. These are the seasons that feel like spring, hopeful, expansive, full of momentum. But it's the winters. It's the moments where nothing makes sense, where your progress feels like it's vanished, where your identity starts to slip through your fingers. I've lived both. I've stood on mountaintops. I've felt unstoppable. I've also curled up in the valley wondering if I had anything left. But that's the beauty of this life. We're not meant to stay the same. We're meant to be broken open, reshaped by hardship, made wiser by failure. And when those dark seasons arrive, when the warmth fades and the questions return, most people go back to sleep. They wait for that storm to pass. They close their eyes and they hope the world makes decisions for them. But I made that promise to myself to never outsource my future to chance, to never drift through another season waiting to be saved. And so I picked up the pen again. I lit the fire again, began the process again. While the world slept, I stayed awake.